Creating effective videos without always having to be on camera is a skill. And while it provides benefits for anyone having to explain anything to customers, staff, management, prospects, or donors, using the right tool to do it is still one of the best ways to learn it. No doubt you know or have heard that the tool is Camtasia Studio, because doing the editing is just as important as creating a video. And once you understand how to do it, you can create any video to explain anything for any occasion. But getting the most from Camtasia without spending years in the help menu or hours on YouTube isn't easy to do. Well, we've got you covered with a step-by-step over-the-shoulder video course on the basis of using the latest version of Camtasia. So in about 56 minutes, we're going to have you ready to create videos of all kinds without lots of wasted time and extra things to do, keeping you from the most important tasks you already have. So we've selected the steps you need to know, which is everything you need to get moving with Camtasia. In about an hour, or less in some cases, you'll be creating your own effective videos. Hello and welcome. You're now looking at the website for Camtasia Studio by the company Techsmith. And Camtasia is a screen recording application along with an integrated video editor. And it's typically used to create video tutorials as well as video presentations. It will allow you to record and annotate your screen. And it has a number of features typically included in presentation style software. It will also allow you to capture your webcam to do live action video. And as of the recording of this video, there's specific pricing for Camtasia. However, you can evaluate the software with a free trial. And you can use the most recent version whenever you are seeing this video for 30 days. No credit card is required for the trial, and you can download the software for either Windows or the Mac. Now, before you download the trial, it's a good idea to look at the system requirements so that you can test to find out if your system will be able to handle the video production portion of Camtasia. And in those system requirements, you will see both minimum specifications and recommended specifications. You will see them both for a Windows environment and a Mac environment. Now, for the sake of this course, we will use a Windows environment in order to work with Camtasia. And in the next video, we will undertake the process of downloading and installing Camtasia. Now, if you have purchased a previous version of Camtasia Studio and you registered that version with the Techsmith website, you can log into the Techsmith website and you can upgrade your previous version at a discounted price. So for example, if we were to log into a Techsmith account, what you can do is you can click the side that says My Products, and you can scroll down to find a previous license of Camtasia Studio. And what you can do is you can follow the link that will allow you to upgrade your Camtasia Studio. And you will typically see a link to upgrade that will be less than if you go to purchase Camtasia Studio as a new customer. And you can walk through the cart process for that version. Now, if you choose not to upgrade your version of Camtasia Studio, you can download your most recent version by clicking the download button. That will download the software to your hard drive and allow you to install the software. You can use the software key given to you by Techsmith in your product area. We are now going to come to the Camtasia trial and we're going to download the Windows application. We are now going to open the application that we downloaded. We're going to walk through the installation process. Now, when you click the Options tab on installation, you'll need to check the options that are going to be available. For example, if you want the destination folder to be the one defaulted by Camtasia, you can leave it. Or you can allow the destination folder to be someplace else. You can choose to start Camtasia Studio right after the installation, or you can toggle it off. You can create a shortcut to Camtasia 2021, or you can toggle it off. You can install a default library of assets, or you can toggle this off. And you can choose to enable Camtasia add-in for Microsoft PowerPoint, or you can toggle it off. We're now going to click Continue. There are specific license terms to Camtasia Studio. You're going to want to click the license terms. And you do want to familiarize yourself with the end user license as well as the terms of service. Once you've read through the terms of service to your satisfaction, you can close it. You can then click the Install button. And Techsmith will begin the installation process. Once the installation has completed, you can then click Finish. Now typically you are going to have to restart your personal computer in order for the changes to take place and to have the most recent version of Camtasia fully installed. So we're going to stop the video here and we're going to continue with the installation. And once Camtasia is installed, you should see the Get Started window, and you will then be able to begin using Camtasia Studio. Welcome back. Now once the dialog is open, you can then click the New Project button, and this will open up the entire dialog. And the dialog will begin to open. But once you open Camtasia for the first time, you'll need to sign in to either start the trial, or you'll need to enter the software key of the software of your purchase. Now for the trial, no credit card is required. Now you are going to want to note that the videos that you produce with the trial version are going to be watermarked until the trial for the software is ended or you have made the purchase. And of course, videos that you produce after the purchase will not be watermarked. What we're going to do is we're going to sign in to start the trial. Once the dialog is open, you will basically be inside of the editing and processing screen. In order to begin recording videos, you can click the Record button. Now the other way that you can record videos will be to use the Camtasia recorder. And depending on the configuration of your personal computer, you will then be able to search for the Camtasia recorder. And as you can see, there is a Camtasia recorder associated with the version that has been installed. Now even while the editing screen is available, you can open that Camtasia recorder on your personal computer, and you will see the recording tool available. Now before you begin working with the recorder, you're going to want to look at the menu of the recorder and set your tools. To do that, you're going to go to the Tools area and you're going to go to the Preferences menu. Now you'll want to customize these settings. In particular, you'll want to customize where your files will be saved by default. And the most conservative way in order to save your files is to make it so that Camtasia will prompt you as to where the file needs to be saved. Now this is an additional step in the process, and there is the possibility that your file may be corrupted in a crash. So if you find that you are crashing Camtasia after you've used it for a period of time, you may want to turn on the automatic file name and have it saved automatically. However, the most conservative way of serving your file is to have it prompt you for the file name. You want to take a look at the Inputs tab. You're going to want to set this information. If you go to your shortcut preferences, what you'll notice is that you can pause your recording with an F9 key, you can stop it with an F10 key. And this will allow you to work with your recorder without having to use your mouse or interrupt your screen presentation. Now there are some important controls on the recorder itself. If you want to record the audio on your personal computer that plays in the background of your recording, you will leave your system audio toggled on. If you want the audio that's played on your personal computer left out of the recording, you can toggle it off. On the microphone setting, you're going to have a drop-down menu. If you click that drop-down menu, you can choose the mic that Camtasia will use for your recording. If you have more than one webcam connected to your Camtasia, when you toggle on the webcam button, you can select the webcam that you are going to use. When you're not using the webcam, you can toggle off the webcam from your recording. If you are using multiple screens, you can determine which screen will be recorded. And you can choose that screen and the dimensions here in this area. Once you've customized the settings on your recorder, you are then ready to begin screen recording or camera recording with Camtasia. Now you can start the process of recording your webcam. The one way to do that is not to record your screen, and so you turn your screen off. What you would do is you would toggle on your webcam from this button. And you'll notice then that the webcam is going to be turned on. Now for the sake of this video, the webcam is covered, and that's why you'll see that there is a background that looks blank. Now to start this process, you can use the hotkey or F9 key in order to start the recording. You can stop that recording again by hitting the other hotkey, which is the F10 button. So we're going to start this recording by clicking on this record button. Now when the recording is in process, you're going to notice that there's going to be a view of what will be recorded on the webcam. If you want to see a larger view, you're going to click this up arrow. That's going to give you a larger view of what is showing on the webcam. Now when you've completed the recording, you can then click the F10 button. Now for the sake of this video, we're going to click this stop button. That's only because we're using two versions of Camtasia at the same time. Welcome back. Now you can also capture the live action on your screen, and you can do that with or without your webcam. So for example, one of the things we can do is we can capture the screen without our webcam, and we can turn off the webcam by toggling it off. We can toggle our screen back on. Within the current version of Camtasia, if you are using multiple screens, you can choose the screen where you want to capture the live action. So for example, we can choose the screen where we want to capture the information. And we're going to switch the screen from the one that we're looking at presently to a different screen. Within the record window, you're going to see the capture dimensions. In this case, we're capturing the screen at 1920 by 1080 pixels, and you're going to see a preview of the screen that you are capturing. And when you are ready to capture what you want to see on that individual screen, you can hit the record button. Now once again, you would actually hit the F9 button when you wanted to start recording and the F10 button when you wanted to complete the recording. However, because we're using two versions of Camtasia on the same personal computer and within the same recording, we're going to need to click this record button. Now once you hit the record button, what you're actually doing is recording what's on the screen in live action as you go through it. What you're then going to do is click the F10 button. That will complete the recording, and then the recording will automatically integrate into your editing screen. You'll then see the new portion of your recording here in your clip bin inside of your editing screen. Now if you had chosen to include your webcam, you're going to see a different kind of clip here in your clip bin that includes the camera in a portion of your screen. Welcome back. Now there are some basic timeline elements that you'll want to understand as you start the editing process. What you're going to notice at this very top measurement band are time increments. And depending on how zoomed in to the file you are, you're going to see different levels at the time band. So for example, if we shrink the view of the timeline by going to this minus area and we click repeatedly on it, you're going to notice that the file becomes more visible and that the view of the time levels will change. And what we can do is we can look at the video at various points on the timeline by moving the cursor. We can grab the cursor, we can manually move the timeline, and we can see different points in the video. If we need to lengthen the timeline, we can do that. Now the timing itself hasn't changed, but our view of the file has changed and what we can do during the editing process. Now in order to move the cursor back to the very beginning, we can hit the Control and the Home button. That's going to move our cursor back to the beginning. If we want to move our cursor to the end of the file, we can hit the Control and the End button. That'll move our cursor to the end. Or we can manually move it by clicking with our mouse on top of the cursor and dragging it back over the timeline. What we can do also is to watch our video in real time by clicking on the play button, and what you'll notice is that the timeline will move with the actual video. So for example, we're going to click on top of this play button. You're going to hear the video playing and you're going to see the cursor move along the timeline as the video plays in real time. And then the recording process. And you'll see the operation of the cursor on the timeline. Now, what we can also do in order to start and stop the play process is to use the spacebar on our personal computer, and that will also move the editor and player along with the cursor on the timeline. So for example, if we were to click the space button, it says then starts, and then click the space button again to stop it, you'll notice that the cursor stops again. We can click the space bar again, and then the recording process then starts. And we can click the space bar again to stop the player. Welcome back. Now that you understand basics of the timeline, you can then work with the file on your timeline to cut elements out of the video that you do not want to appear. And so what you're going to do is to move your cursor to the point of the video where you want to cut out a section of that video. And assuming that you have listened to the video in real time and there's an element that you want to cut out, what you'll need to do is to drag your cursor to the point where you want to cut out that element of the video. You will pull the element to the point and you'll then click on the editing scissors. That will take out the element that you want out of the video. You can then move to another point in the video. You can drag your cursor to that point. You can use the handle to highlight the portion that you don't want there, and you can click on the editing scissors. That will take out the point of the video. And you can do this as many times as you need to. Now, it is a good idea that you will edit your video left to right as you go up in time. So for example, the next edit that we would make would be further up in time. We want to try to complete all of the edits in order of the timeline as we can. For example, we're going to click on this handle and we're going to edit out another portion of the video. Now, one of the reasons that we want to try to edit our videos from left to right is so that if we make a mistake in the editing process, we can actually go back and undo any changes that we have made on the timeline and do it in chronological order. So for example, we can go backwards by clicking this undo button, or we can actually use Control Z, which is the hotkey. So we're going to click on the undo button. That's going to undo this edit. We can do that again and click undo. That's going to undo the second edit. We can click undo again. That's going to undo the first edit that we made. And if we were to click undo again, you're going to notice that the entire file goes away. Now what we can do then is we can then click the redo button. That will then add our file back. We can then click the redo button again. That will redo the first edit. We can click the redo button again. That will redo the second edit. We can click the redo button again, and that'll redo the third edit. And so basically, you want to try to do your basic editing from left to right on the timeline as you go up in time. When you are editing a Camtasia recording file and you pull that recording file into the timeline area, you're going to notice that the file is then divided into two sections. Those two sections are tracks, track 1 and track 2. You're going to notice that track 2 is the audio version of your video. You're going to notice that track 1 is the visual or video portion of the actual video file. And so if you wanted to edit the audio alone, there are a few ways that you can do it. If you know that you didn't need the video portion, what you could do is you could right click on top of the track, which is track 1. You could then remove that track. You then click yes. You'll notice then that you only have the audio that you will be working with to edit, and you can begin working on the audio track. And of course, if you want to bring back the video track, you can bring it back by clicking undo. You can do the very same thing with the audio. You can right click track 2. You can then remove that track. You'll then just be working with the visual or video portion. And of course, you can redo and add that track back. That means then that we can add other visuals to our existing audio. Now, another thing that we can do is we can turn off a specific track. So for example, what we can do is we can turn off the track 2 or the audio track. We can then do is we can edit the visual track. So we can pull our cursor to the point at which we want to edit. We can then pull our handle, and we can cut out the video that we no longer want. And what we can do is we can add in another visual that we may want to add to this particular track. And all we need to do is to import another video. We can go to our media. We can add it to our clip. We can add the clip to our timeline. And we can then have this visual available with our audio. In this particular case, we need to stretch the visual so that it would extend to the end of the actual audio. What we can then do is to turn our track back on. We can then resave our project. Now, once we understand basic editing, we can add other media to our media bin and then add that video to our editing timeline and work with it along with the rest of our project. So for example, if we wanted to import additional media, we would go to Import. We would then click Media. And we can pull an MP4 video into our media bin. Now we can use it within our existing project or work with it in an entirely new project by adding it from the media bin to our timeline. We're now going to make the timeline smaller so that we can see the entire file. What you'll notice is that this MP4 video, when we move it from the media bin to our timeline, does not automatically split into 2 tracks. You'll see that it's all in one track where the audio and video are available within the same track. What we can do is we can right-click the track. We can then click the link that says Separate Audio and Video. And what you'll see then is that this video now appears in separate tracks, one audio track and one video or visual track. And we can then begin the editing process with this particular part of the clip that we have added, which was an MP4 video. Welcome back. Now once you've completed the editing, you'll then be ready to produce your video for sharing in its final format. And so to do that, you're going to go to the export area. And you will then have some choices to produce your final video. Now, if you are looking to produce your video as an MP4 file, you're going to simply use the local file link. Now, depending on how you've last used Camtasia, you're going to have a default setting. You're going to want to click this drop-down menu, and your choices will then be available to you. Now, you will be able to produce videos that are shared on cloud-based platforms. However, in most cases, if you are going to produce a video, you're going to choose the resolution that you want for your video to be produced. Now, when you produce it at the highest possible resolution, Camtasia will determine the dimensions of your recording and how high of a resolution that you can actually use. In this case, we're going to produce an MP4 video. We're then going to click Next, and we're then going to click Finish. And Camtasia will then start the rendering process in order to produce your final video. Once the production process is complete, what you can do is you can click the Open Production folder. This is where Camtasia saved your final video file, and it's from there that you can begin using your video file. And your video file is then ready to be used. Welcome back. Now, one kind of video that you may want to create will be to narrate a presentation using presentation software like PowerPoint. Now, PowerPoint does have an integrated add-in that you will need to make sure is going to be enabled before you can use it. Now, for the sake of this video, we are going to operate under the Windows configuration. And to start the process, we're going to pull up the Run window by typing Windows, then the R button. That'll give us the Run window, and we're going to type in Control Panel. We're then going to click on the Programs link. We're then going to click on the Programs and Features link. We're then going to find the version of Camtasia that we want to use for the add-on, and we're going to click the Change button. We're then going to click the Modify link. And if you have not added the Camtasia add-on for PowerPoint, you can then click this Enable button. What you can then do is click the Modify link. Now, in order to undertake this process, you will need to make sure that your Camtasia version is closed for the one that you're going to use to modify. If that's the case, you're then going to click Modify. Camtasia will then go through the installation process of adding the add-on to your Microsoft PowerPoint. Your Camtasia should then be added to your Microsoft PowerPoint. You should then be able to go to your Microsoft PowerPoint, go to the Add-in section, and then see your Camtasia recording area in Microsoft PowerPoint. You can also go to your PowerPoint options. You should find within the Add-in section that the Camtasia add-in is enabled inside of Microsoft PowerPoint and that it is the version that you want to have enabled. Now, if you close and reopen Camtasia, you should see a message welcoming you to the Camtasia PowerPoint add-in. Now, what you'll want to do is to make sure that you untick the Show Tip again. Otherwise, you'll see this message when you open PowerPoint at a later time. We're going to click OK, and the PowerPoint add-in is then added. We can then go to the add-in section again, and we'll see our PowerPoint add-in. Now, once you have installed the PowerPoint add-in, you will want to look at your settings. And to do that, you're going to go into the Settings button. That's going to give you this dialog. And you're going to see various settings that you can control before you start the recording process. Now, once your presentation ends, you're going to want to control what happens. So when you complete your recording, you can make it so that the recording continues. You can make it so that you can get a prompt, or you can make it so that the recording will automatically stop. And this will determine what kind of presentation you are doing and how you want to do it. You're going to see a screen frame rate and what kind of format you're going to record to, but you can also determine how it's going to be recorded. You can determine how or if you're going to record audio. So for example, we can untick Record Audio, or we can record our audio through our microphone as we are speaking. Just as is the case when you were using the Camtasia recorder, you can determine if you're going to record the audio that's playing on your computer. You can tick or untick this button. If you're going to use your webcam along with your PowerPoint presentation, you can add in the Record from Camera button. When you do that, you can then set up your camera. You're going to click this button. That's going to give you a dialog for your webcam. You're going to see a preview, and you can determine how you want your webcam to be recorded. Once you have determined what your camera setup is going to be, you can then click OK. If you decide that you're not going to capture the webcam, you can take off Record from Camera. And finally, you are going to see keyboard shortcuts. You're going to see the Record or Pause button as well as the Stop button. Now, one of the things you'll notice is that it's slightly different by default than if you use the recorder. You're going to use Control, Shift, and F9 by default, and then to stop, Control, Shift, and F10. Now again, you can control the experience as to what this is going to be, and you can change this if you want it to be different. Once you have determined what your settings are going to be, by using the PowerPoint add-in, you can then click OK. And you are then ready to begin using the PowerPoint add-in. Welcome back. Now, assuming that you have your script for each slide and you have your add-in settings adjusted, you're now ready to begin recording. Now, to start and pause the recording, the hotkeys are Control, Shift, and F9 all in one action. And so if we click Control, Shift, and F9, what you'll see then is that your first slide will then appear and it is ready to begin recording. What you will also see in the bottom right hand corner is you will see a preview button. Now what you can do here is you can then click again Control, Shift, and F9 in order to start the recording or begin. And so we will click Control, Shift, and F9, and then the recording process then starts. In order to pause the recording, we would then click again Control, Shift, and F9. And what you'll see then is that we get the window reminding us that the recording is still going. Now in order to scroll through your recording, you're going to use your arrow keys. So for example, in order to advance to the next slide, we're going to use the down arrow. And that'll take us to either the next slide or to the next point. We can then click the down arrow again. And if we have animations enabled, what will happen is the next animated point will then appear. And we can continue to narrate our PowerPoint with the down arrow, moving through our points, and then moving on to the next slide. Once we have completed the PowerPoint presentation and we've completed our narration, you can see that what we can do is we can then click the Control, Shift, and then F10 button, or we can click the Escape button in order to stop the recording. So for the sake of this video, what we're going to do is click Control, Shift, and then F10. And then our PowerPoint add-in will give us a choice. We can either stop the recording or continue recording. Now for the sake of this video, what we're going to do is we're going to click Stop the recording. We're then prompted to save our video to a specific directory. We will then do is save our recording file to that location. Our add-in will then automatically give us two choices. We'll be prompted now to either produce our recording, which is to create the video as is, or to move the file to our editing screen and then go on to produce our recording after we edit it. So for the sake of this video, we're going to click Edit. We're then going to click OK. And typically, you're going to leave this box ticked so that you will always get the choice from PowerPoint. We're going to click OK. Your Camtasia editing area will then open with the file inside. And so you'll see the opening process start on your personal computer. And your recording is now ready for the editing process. Welcome back. Whenever you complete a Camtasia recording, what's going to happen is when you stop the recording, that recording is going to move into your integrated editor. And we're going to look at that integrated editor right now. As soon as you get into this area, it's a good practice to then save the project file. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the File area. We're then going to go to Save As. And before we start the editing process, we're going to name the new file as something that we will remember, as well as saving it in a place that we'll remember. Camtasia will then give you a message that says that your Camtasia project is now saved. You'll then click OK. Now if you go to the directory where you save the project file, you will see that project file available within your file manager. Now depending on what you did at the point at which you were setting up the software, you may not see the actual recording file. And what you'll want to do is to make sure that you can save your recording file someplace where you will have control, or you want to make sure that you understand exactly where that file is going to be. What you'll need to do is to go to your recorder. And if you go to the recorder, what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to look to the recording preferences. We're going to go to the Tools area and we're going to go to Preferences. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at Files. You're going to notice that at the point at which we set up the software, we opted for the automatic file name. We also opted for the default output folder. If we have determined that we're not in danger of having our file crash, what we can do is we can prompt Camtasia for the file name, and we'll then click OK. Now, if we start a recording, let's assume that we do, and we go through the recording process, and then we end the recording, you'll notice now that what we get is Camtasia will give us the opportunity not only to name the file, but also to determine where that file will be saved. And we can save the file in a new location. And then the recorded file will be moved directly to our integrated editor. We can then immediately go through the process of saving the new project. And then click Save. We're told then that our project is saved, but now when we go to our folder area, not only do we see our project file, but we also see the recording file from Camtasia that we have newly named. And we now have control over where that file is going to be and how it's going to be organized. Welcome back. Now, depending on your configuration, it's possible that you may be working on your personal computer with multiple versions of Camtasia at the same time. And as you can see, that's a possibility. For this individual setup, you'll notice that there is a Camtasia Studio 8 installed, a Camtasia Studio 2021 installed, and a Camtasia Studio version 9 installed. And in this case, the construction of the recording files, as well as the project files, are not all the exact same. For example, you were looking at a project created in Camtasia version number 8. And if we were to look at the properties of this project file, you're going to notice that this Camtasia project file created in Camtasia version 8 has a different file extension in the most recent version of Camtasia, which as of the recording of this video is Camtasia version 2021. Now, if you were to look at the recording file, you're going to notice that the file extension is the same in Camtasia version 8 as it is in Camtasia version 2021. So if we were to open this recording file into a project area with the most recent version of Camtasia, and we were to click OK, you'll notice that this file opens as you would any other file in Camtasia version 2021. Now, if you were going to open up this old project in a new version of Camtasia, you'll notice then that it's not going to be available in the most recent version of Camtasia Studio. Now, as of the recording of this video, Techsmith has stated that they are aware of this issue. Their suggestion is that the older project files would need to be opened in version 9, Camtasia 2018, or Camtasia 2019 to convert them into the new designation or project extension. Once they have the new extension, they can then be opened in more recent versions of Camtasia Studio. For this process, we're going to open up the editing area from a previous version of Camtasia. We're actually going to open up Camtasia version 9 for this process. And from Camtasia version 9, we're going to open up the old project. We'll now see that project available. We're going to open it in Camtasia version 9. What you'll notice here in Camtasia version 9 is that it will undertake a conversion process. We are going to say yes to the conversion process. Once the project upgrade has taken place, we're then going to click OK. And what you'll notice now is that the project file has a new file extension which matches that in the newest version of Camtasia Studio. What we can now do is we can close our previous version, which for the purposes of this video is Camtasia version 9. We're going to exit and close. We are now back in the most recent version of Camtasia, which for the purposes of this video is Camtasia version 2021. And we're now going to open the new project file. And we're going to open it in the new version of Camtasia. And you'll notice now that there's going to need to be a second conversion. We're going to say yes to this conversion. Once that conversion has taken place, we're then going to click OK. And our project has now been upgraded into the most recent version of Camtasia. Welcome back. Now, depending on your personal computer's configuration, one of the things that will make it easier for you to be able to set the dimensions of your recordings is to have hardware at the minimum dimensions. And you'll notice here that we are using the search term laptop 1920 by 1080, assuming that most of your recordings you will want to record in this dimension. But whatever the purpose of your recording and dimensions, you'll want to try to use hardware that operates in those dimensions. And so you'll see here that there are laptops, in this case we'd be looking at 1920 by 1080 in those dimensions. If we're going to use a second screen, we'd want to find external monitors in those same dimensions. And we can do that by using the search terms either HD or the numerical dimensions that we want to have with our screen. The same is true if you were going to use a portable monitor. You'll want to get the resolution that you want to record your videos in using Camtasia. This will make it easy to do recordings in your chosen dimensions. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video.